Hi everybody, Rad Mom here. Welcome back to the channel, where today we have Julia Phillip, aka Ready to Glare.
In case it wasn't obvious, I'm supposed to look like shit. I'm trying to cosplay Jesse Pinkman,
a YouTuber who has been doing internet commentary for quite some time. Consequently, she came upon a clip that perfectly illustrates what I was trying to get at last week about the countervailing cultural forces competing for your time and attention.
So, blast from the past, we're going to be talking about Brittany Dawn, as in Brittany Dawn Fitness. I never thought I was going to hear that name again, and here we are. I really did not recognize her immediately. Basically, she made these fitness plans that were supposed to be all customized. I heard that they weren't customized at all. She not only got canceled, but she got in trouble with the law. This was not silly internet canceling, this was actual scamming. There was dog abandonment, there was the fact that her husband apparently shot one of their dogs. Jordan Nelson, a former Kansas City police officer, was sued by the ACLU for using excessive force against a black man in 2013. He was also at the center of a separate scandal in 2021 when Dawn announced he'd shot their dog after it had been hit by a car rather than taking it to the vet. So there's a lot going on that is questionable to say the least.
So what we have here is a scam artist? There is reason to believe that Miss Brittany Dawn and her husband are pretty terrible people.
Brittany Dawn has a lot of shit to rebrand from. So keeping all of that in mind, Brittany Dawn went ahead and posted this.
As an actual woman, there is so much I could say to this right now.
It's day 730 of being a girl, aka 2 years of publicly transitioning as a woman.
Ah yes, at last. The topic we've all been waiting for. The thing on everyone's mind. The Days of Girlhood song. I was thinking of doing a video about this last week, and I decided to go a different way because I think, in the end, Dylan Mulvaney and people like him are a shiny distraction from the actual issues at hand. I have to say, I think that was the right decision.
Or 2 years of being your worst nightmare, whichever way you see it.
I'm not sure why we're surprised, but the utter disrespect continues. Watching Dylan say that women are a worst nightmare and how proud he is of that. Dylan Mulvaney is not a woman, and no amount of surgeries, procedures, or hormones will ever change that.
This woman is so insufferable, but even a broken clock is right twice a day.
And yet, he still released a new song called Girlhood. And according to Dylan, a man, being a woman, aka girlhood, is shopping at our own leisure, sleeping in, staying medicated, hooking up with whomever we please, and one-night stands.
This is the part where I'm gonna say I found that song to be simply bizarre. Okay, here's a grown man dancing around and doing the full choreography in front of the pool and the whole bit, singing about Days of Girlhood as a grown-ass man, and I'm like, what? I think a little bit of my brain blew a fuse just in watching it. It's so bizarre to me. And that's why I didn't end up making the videos, because that's about all I have to say on that.
These are the agendas that society wants to push. When anything remotely related to Jesus or the gospel comes out, it's blocked, banned, censored, and put into a little corner. Music videos with a trans woman, aka a man cosplaying a woman, are okay. But when a movie like Cabrini comes out featuring a woman after God's own heart, they are somehow labeled as controversial. This world needs Jesus more now than ever.
Brittany Dawn has now taken to being mad about trans people, especially Dylan Mulvaney.
So Brittany Dawn is a scam artist who has transitioned to looking for conservative clout.
Dylan Mulvaney, who came out with a song about her experience being a girly, basically.
But that's what's so bizarre about it, is that Dylan Mulvaney, as a grown man, cannot have any experience of being a girl. Ever. It's fiction.
As far as I understand, I didn't go into whole fucking lyric interpretation, but I think you need to be brain dead to not understand that. And like with any song and with any artist, what they're describing usually is their own personal experience.
It cannot be.
Not your experience. And specifically, if we're really gonna talk about it, a pop song about being a girl when you are a trans person is obviously going to be very different than a pop song about being a girl if you are a cis hetero girl or woman, right?
Ooh, that is right. But it's also transphobia, I'm led to understand. Wait a minute, let me check my notes.
Critical thinking skills are rare on the internet. I will say that.
Critical thinking skills are actively discouraged on the internet. Are you kidding me?
And reading comprehension, including comprehension of reading what someone is saying, Rarer still, when Dylan says of being your worst nightmare, she's not talking about being a woman. She's talking about people who hate trans women. I think that much is obvious. Are you really gonna say that your comprehension is so below zero that this person who released a song about girlhood is here to say that womanhood is their worst nightmare? Connect the dots for me, please.
Dylan was clearly facetiously referring to his own haters, and like, I don't know what Brittany Dawn's problem is. She seems like somebody who is just smart enough and just crazy enough to be a whole lot of trouble for the rest of us.
Now let me be very clear, I'm obviously neither a Dylan Mulvaney stan nor a Brittany Dawn stan. Honestly, I don't really have an opinion about Dylan Mulvaney, mainly because she doesn't come up in any conversation of mine, and I've never looked super deep into her because, again, she does not come up in my circles. It's just not a topic of conversation.
You know, it's funny Julia should say that, because that is exactly why I do know anything about Dylan Mulvaney, is because he is a topic of conversation in a lot of the circles that I run in, and he does come up in conversation a lot. So, like, he has been impossible to miss, for me.
So, no real opinion there.
Him being a man is not an opinion.
I do think it's shitty to be transphobic, period, and so that's why I'm discussing this. It's also interesting to me because what is the point? What is the issue?
I'll field that question.
A trans person is living, existing.
The issue is that they're not just living and existing, they are changing laws, which affect things like college scholarships, bathroom and locker room access to prisons, all sorts of stuff. Julia, I have made many videos on this topic. Suffice it to say, women have certain material needs that men do not. Acknowledging that as part of public discourse has been one of the biggest gains of the last 100 years or so for women. Sleepwalking that backwards has been probably one of the worst things to happen, in my opinion, politically in the last decade in the West.
She released a song that you think is dumb and that misrepresents womanhood, I guess.
I think the song is bizarre and it misrepresents reality. Like, in no plane of existence is this person a girl, nor has he ever been. The whole song is one big, you know, work of fiction presented as fact, which is like, I don't know, a lie? So he's living a lie, and you and everyone like you are just going along with it because you don't want to hurt his feelings? What is that?
I don't know, maybe it's just me being jaded, but I don't really expect pop music to be a big, representative, complex, nuanced discussion. Most of the time, it's silly and lighthearted, and maybe that's what this song was supposed to be, about the small joys of being a girl/woman in Dylan's position.
He is not a girl, though.
Do I approve of self-medicating, of abusing substances, whatever else may be implied or not, but what is implied here? No. But if we're really going to go that deep, a lot of pop music is going to be taken off the shelves if we're not going to talk about the unhealthy sides of humanity. That's what most art is, dude. So, like, get a grip.
Pop music is indulgent by nature. This is true. I don't know. I think most of it, as you say, expresses like some of the more base experiences of life, and a lot of it is aimed at specifically young people. So, you know, packaging this lie in such a way might be a bit concerning.
So I also wanted to talk about like the Jesus-y aspect of this.
Here we go. This is the connection I wanted to make before.
Now, maybe people here don't know. I don't know how much I've referred to this, probably not often, but your girl was raised Catholic. I'm no longer Catholic, but I do not like this use of the Bible, Jesus, whatever, as a scare tactic.
Does fire and brimstone fear-mongering have anything to do with why you're not Catholic anymore?
So I don't like using this kind of fear-mongering to say this is the agenda they're pushing, that this is okay, but talking about Jesus isn't okay. People don't like having shit pushed down their throat.
I'm sorry, a grown-ass man dancing around singing about how these are the days of girlhood isn't shoving things down people's throat?
They don't want people telling you, oh, you're definitely trans, you're not trans, you're gay, you're not gay. They don't want people telling them who they are and what they think. Same thing goes for religion. People don't want you to come up to them and say, you need to believe in this or you're going to hell. And they don't want you to say, oh, your religion is wrong and mine is right. It's pretty simple. People want to be able to think by themselves, and this is across the board.
These are fundamental aspects of life that people want to be able to find out for themselves. Yeah. Contrast and contradiction between the two of them, I think, is just so fascinating.
Also, turning to transphobia to try to make your point, I promise you, is almost never going to work.
Making fun of people for clout is shameless. Obviously, I think Miss Brittany Dawn is being disingenuous and doesn't give a rat's ass about Dylan Mulvaney or womanhood or ethics. But that's my take on that.
Simply because it's, and this is a silly example, but just to display my point, it's like if I'm trying to make a point against you, and the first thing I bring up is, hey, you're an ugly hoe, now let me tell you why I have valid points A, B, and C. Do you think anyone's going to listen to me beyond me calling you an ugly hoe? No.
But it's interesting how you equate calling a grown human male a man with calling someone an ugly hoe. How exactly is identifying a fact before your eyes an insult, Julia?
They're not even going to listen to points A, B, and C, even if potentially they're rational.
I feel like maybe dismissing somebody on the grounds of observing a fact might be the irrational bit.
Now, I don't know what her other points are, but if you're gonna start with calling Dylan he, when she goes by she,
he does not get to determine how everybody in the world perceives him,
is unnecessary, and it removes focus from your actual point.
That is part of my point, though.
So you're doing yourself a disservice on top of being rude.
You perceiving my observance of a fact as rude highlights a bias of yours.
Just saying. So there's an article that I read by Kelsey Weekman, and so this discusses a little more about Brittany Dawn, referred to as Davis. Davis's posts about Christianity aren't formal, she hasn't attended seminary school, and she only sometimes uses religious texts. It's more of an aesthetically pleasing guide to happiness that encourages supernatural encounters and affirmations. Her Christianity brand is digestible, social media friendly, and easy to share with others, and the women I met at this like 10-hour workshop type thing seemed thrilled to share it with me.
So she's an influencer using religion for conservative clout, and I think things may have gotten a little out of hand.
Then Davis baptized about a dozen people in what she later confirmed on Instagram was a horse feeding trough. Even more knelt in front of the stage to get quote-unquote baptized in the spirit and quote-unquote receive their prayer language, aka speak in unintelligible tongue, before lining up for a dinner catered by Chipotle. I stayed in my seat, exhausted from 10 hours of smiling and swaying, hoping people would think I was praying and not slowly morphing into a tornado of swirling skepticism. And here is a picture of the tub used to baptize. So it's basically a metal container.
I think the vessel in which you are baptizing people is really beside the point.
I have nothing against religion.
Really? I do. And the receipts are long, and most of them are public record. I would think as a former Catholic, you might be aware of some of those things.
But if you're gonna be some type of caricature of some preacher, Instagram girly combination, baptizing people and having people speak in tongues, are you really in the position to be calling someone else out?
Nope. Game recognized game, though. It takes one to know one? I don't know. I think we have one scam artist calling out another scam artist here. You know, what happens when one scam artist meets another? They scam one another. They have like countervailing angles. They cancel one another out. Dylan Mulvaney and Miss Brittany Dawn have like, you know, the exact opposite approach to gaining infamy, essentially.
Any person who takes religious messiah-like roles, I do not trust.
Hallelujah!
Historically, the figures who take this messiah-like role are not well. They're egomaniacs, narcissists, there's just a whole fucking slew of shit. It never ends well. So the fact that she's taken this Christian pivot and is quote-unquote baptizing people.
And this is what I was saying last week about Andrew Tate. Religion as an influencer trend is kind of terrifying.
I find that more concerning than a girly and her girly pop.
That's right. Dylan Mulvaney, at this point, is a shiny distraction from the real meaty undercurrents that are flowing in current popular culture.
Afterward, attendees raved on social media about how bold and powerful the event was and how people were delivered from witchcraft and depression. They were emotionally wrecked and said that that was proof that God had done something amazing through all the hours of dancing, meditation, and affirmation.
And I just want to point out that any idiot can have one of these revival meetings and like feel amazing afterwards. Yeah, after dancing for 10 hours and not eating anything, like, yeah, you're gonna feel like something happened to you because it did. Things like food and sleep deprivation bring on feelings of amazing weirdness, and it doesn't take a whole lot of time. But so, you know, this is like the revival tent meeting version of virtue signaling.
I'd wanted to better understand how Christianity gets shared and changed online, and the women talking excitedly with me about how much they love Davis's message seemed to have gotten something out of it. Pot kettle here a little bit.
No, absolutely pot kettle. But I think really Dylan Mulvaney just looked like a ripe target for clout, for clicks, right? For content. Because he really is. He is an amazing... He has a big fat target on his back, doesn't he? As far as content creation, you love him, you hate him, either way, he's a very polarizing person who loves to be on camera. So, there's plenty to choose from. This is how I'm gonna cover it, I think.
I don't think Dylan Mulvaney's doing anything wrong. I tend to be, like I said, skeptical of wannabe messiah type figures. And the thing is, like, I really do think there's a lot of banking on fear, because there's also this TikTok that I found.
Jesus said, "This is a wicked generation. There is no faithfulness, no love, no acknowledgement of God in the land. There is only cursing, lying, and murder." She's
literally just putting on winter gloves. That is an example of how editing changes everything, right?
Stealing and adultery.
I'm not trying to say it's easy to be a Christian in 2024. I don't know what it's like. I don't know what you're going through. I would assume that you're not being persecuted, because this TikTok makes it seem like there's an actual spiritual war, which I know some Christians believe.
Apparently a lot of people believe that.
I really don't like the fear-mongering of making it seem like everyone's giving in to Satan, or that there's all this spiritual warfare.
I don't know. That's pretty par for the course when it comes to, like, religion.
If you do believe that, that's fine, but when I see people who make money off of this Christian warfare...
It's not fine to believe that. Who in the hell do you think is giving these people their money?
You can't blame me for being suspicious of, like, how interesting this supposed spiritual war that's going on is what's lining your pockets, though.
It's exactly the same suspicion that should be applied to any claims, and, you know, these fantastic ones are just really not based on, you know, anything observable, are they?
So what happens when there's no war? What are you gonna sell? I have to wonder. Now, am I doubting the legitimacy of her Christianity? No, because I have no idea.
I'm not doubting the legitimacy of her Christianity because it is completely irrelevant.
I'm just saying that the practices here don't really align to me, and especially as someone who's critiquing someone else for just being who they are.
The idea that Dylan Mulvaney's days of girlhood is him just being who he is. It is so absurd. What do you even say? That is no. No. Say whatever you will about Miss Brittany Dawn, at least she really is a big fucking phony, unethical scam artist. Dylan Mulvaney is not a girl.
It seems a little bit ironic, to say the very least. Honestly, I think this is just a very drastic rebrand, which is also why I was caught off guard by it, because I was like, this has nothing to do with her prior internet persona, and I guess that's the point.
Exactly, and she's trying to use Dylan Mulvaney's moment in the sun to help build her own brand.
But nonetheless, it all seems very unnecessary, and I really wonder if commenting on the whole Dylan Mulvaney thing wasn't just a tactic to get attention, which if so, it worked, but not every Christian is going to be cool with that, so you don't really know how much of your own audience you may be alienating.
I think she knows. I think Miss Brittany Dawn knows exactly the sort of person that she's targeting with a video like that, and it probably worked for her. She's building a very coherent brand, apparently. You know, but considering what it is, you know, using marketing tactics, using modern marketing tactics, combined with religion. Think about that. That's a frightening prospect.
And it's also like, do you really want an audience that's totally okay with you just like misgendering someone for the kicks?
I do not misgender people for the kicks. I do not misgender people. I'm not worried about their gender, okay? I'm sticking with the material reality of the situation, which is that Dylan Mulvaney is a grown man. He is not a girl, and he never was. Which makes that whole video some bizarre pantomime that, you know, impressionable minds may mistake for not that. That's the issue in a nutshell. But thank you, Julia, for the opportunity to illustrate that people like Dylan Mulvaney are a shiny distraction from the actual dark undercurrents which are brewing right now all around us, in the form of, one supposes, some sort of coming weird modern religious revival. So get ready for that. Thank you so much for joining me as I attempt to apply a feminist perspective to this bizarre world we live in. And come back at the top of the hour for the live stream and discussion where we can continue to noodle over these topics and more. I will see you there, and I'll see you next Wednesday with a new video. Thanks a lot. Bye.